Hello, welcome to any combo lords joining me today in my room for a later than usual little stream because, I always have to give you folks a little extra knowledge in between our main combo class episodes. And as a quick heads up, I did hope to have my last main episode about Fermat's Last Theorem and Beyond out around today or yesterday, but it has a lot of different scenes, a lot of different editing required, and while I'm the one doing all the editing, it is taking me sometimes a week and a half instead of a week to get them out, as I assemble a team with more editors and such, and I've been talking to more friends who may be interested in helping and such. We'll have more episodes on a purely weekly basis, and eventually even a once per 6 days basis. Now, currently, we do have a lot of old-fashioned things around here. And whoever noted that they're the only one watching in the chat and someone else said no, sometimes those numbers fluctuate and aren't fully accurate. They're a little funny with what numbers they display how, but whoever is here, welcome, love you all so much. You're my combo lords, and as you can tell, today we're getting a little old-fashioned. I'm not pulling open some computery background like I sometimes do when we're in the room. When we're outside, we got the whiteboards and the clocks and stuff, but you can see it's dark out. And so, instead of pulling open some graphs or sometimes we do like graphs or tier lists or random stuff like that when we're stuck here in the room. I mean, I don't care about the dark. We could use candles and stuff. It's a little more so that it's at an hour where if we get engaged in the stream and go for longer than an hour, I would be bugging neighbors on a Monday night. And my family, lucky, is cool with this amount of noise. And someone said, hello, Mr. Beast's cousin. That one I haven't heard as often. I've gotten compared to a lot of people. Jack Harlow being the most frequent, and a lot of various people. I'll go for Mr. Beast. I can't gauge whether that is a compliment or a diss or just a analysis, but I do like the guy. That guy, despite some of his videos being kind of cheesy, does a lot of good things for the world. So I actually do respect that guy and do not mind him being the largest solo non-fully corporation YouTuber. Now, somebody said they can't wait for the video on Fermat's Last Theorem, and it is taking a little longer editing, but almost positively we'll have it out tomorrow. Normally you would catch me saying it will definitely be out tomorrow, but like I said last time, I realized it'll be smarter to under-promise and over-deliver, because if I tell you it's coming and then I'm late because of all the editing and such, then it makes it seem like an episode every week and a half is late. If we had expected one every 2 weeks and we were getting one every week and a half, it would seem early. So let's not set as many expectations, and note that every month in combo class there will be a good amount of interesting content. Somebody asked if the cats are up as well, and the cats are probably, I don't know, sometimes they sleep at this hour, sometimes they act nocturnal and explore. I have the window open partially for that reason, so that if a cat wants to jump in the window, they got a good in. Now, thank you all for joining me. I will look back at the comments a little more frequently in this stream than usual, so feel free to leave any other questions or thoughts. You could treat these like Q&As as long as you're cool with not getting the answers right away, waiting for me to finish whatever rant about whatever book we're talking about, or so on. Now, here we have a lot of books, but really a small percent of the books that are in this house. We could, if we ever make a main channel episode about books, maybe we'll get absurd and stack my bookshelf and my parents' bookshelf. But my family likes books, particularly used books, or I trade people books, loan people books, buy cheap used ones from bookstores. Most of these are either ones that I forget where I originally got because I've had for many years and I have a different story related to it, or I got a few years ago when I bought a bunch of used math books. Some of them admittedly were from Amazon. I don't really like to support big corporations like that cause a lot of, bad conditions for workers and plastic waste and such. So I'm not recommending them, but they do have cheap used books you can get from some sellers, which does maybe support the sellers as well, whoever those people were. Like this one says thrift books. And normally I like used bookshops. That's even better. If you can go into the bookshop, comb through your different aisles, and really, although I love making my YouTube videos, and it is tied for my biggest passion in a way, as much as my goals are to be making videos that all get 1 million views, that's like tied as a goal with someday walking into a bookstore and seeing my name and my book on the shelf. If I ever walk into a bookstore and there's a book I wrote there, I have a hard time feeling pride, but I will be genuinely proud if that happens. Somebody asked if I've read The Art of War. I haven't, and it does sound interesting, although it's kind of a controversial book because it has certain bad ideas in it. Overall, I think it's a very interesting piece of history and may have some interesting philosophy as well. So I think at some point I will read The Art of War. I don't know if we'll do that on stream because it's a kind of controversial book, but I think reading controversial stuff can be useful. I am more on the side of, instead of censoring and changing past things always, sometimes allowing just a sort of disclaimer that things were from a poor time and that things would be phrased differently in the future. For example, oh no, are we getting glitchy? That will be bad. I hope we're not getting too glitchy and that's just my internet not only sending it but trying to watch it. In any case, we have a lot of books here that range from ones I've loved from throughout life for different reasons to ones that are pretty silly. And there's a sort of update on one of the silly ones that I'll tell you near the end. And this update about the sillier book just had me like, what? Almost too just shocked in a laughing way to actually laugh. So that'll deserve its own episode someday. And it's an update about the number dictionary that I got. I'm putting it in quotes because I had 2 number dictionaries. One of them got destroyed in the rain, but the one that got destroyed is the one that I actually wanted, that I'll buy another copy of probably because it had definitions for the numbers. This one just has the numbers, but we'll get to that in a minute. We're going to start with some books that I recommend more. And by the way, in the background, we do have some random beats I made. To cut a little gate between me and my noise and my family's noise, both so maybe it bugs them less, and so maybe other noises disrupt the stream less. I put some beats of mine in the background. Let me know if they are too loud at any point, or if you can't hear them at all, and then I'll turn them louder. Somebody has to have the book got in the rain. You know me, the classroom's really messy. I am known to leave things out at times, and the rain came pretty unpredictably the last year and seasons. There would be days I didn't expect it to rain and the forecast didn't say it, and then they just zoom down and do that. Now, somebody said, you like your own stream? If you mean clicking the like button, I don't think I clicked the like button on this stream. So I don't know. And somebody says, we up late tonight, baby. Yep. I don't know what time zones y'all are in, but here it's almost 11 p.m., so we're getting late. My sleep schedule's fluctuated over time. I've had periods where I go to bed at this time and periods where my normal bedtime is multiple hours after this. So, it's on the later end. However, not too late to talk about some fun books. And I almost don't know where to begin. In the thumbnail, I put the largest book. So I figured we'll go from largest to smallest. We will weigh each of the books. We'll get each of the dimensions, look at the volume. So we'll take 3 measurements per book, calculate the volume, and then we can order biggest to smallest to analyze. No, I'm kidding. We're just going to look at the biggest one first, and then we're going to go in a random-ish order. Semi-planned randomness. An educated guess order of what I think will make sense to flow for the stream. Now, this book's big. What do you think this is? Well, what would need to be that big? I mean, if you wrote a really good book, I guess it could be that. Some of the other ones are pretty big. Where's the For example, the other two closest to big books are Martin Gardner, great mathematician. I highly recommend either this book or any collection of his stuff. This is just one collection of many different things he wrote in article-like form, as like little essays and things and articles, often for this magazine called Scientific American. He had a column there, and a brilliant enough column that they were all collected and compiled into books. This is one collection of some of the best, and there are many collections, but it's just such a brilliant skim through recreational mathematics, sometimes diving deeper than what you'd call recreational. There are things that he found, but more so Martin Gardner was great, sort of like me in a way, at taking other ideas and just putting his own spin on them, his own combination of how they linked to another idea, perhaps popularizing an underrated idea. Now, I do think I will find some great things in my life, but at the moment, in my mathematical discoveries, I don't know which of my cool findings are that important or not. I'm going to start making some episodes about the things I've found, and then you guys can gauge if any of it's provable or what it means. But I am more so on the Martin Gardner end, where he would take ideas, merge them with other ideas, find new spins, take them further, and present them to the world in a way that was catchy, in a way that hooked people onto this topic. For example, there's things called pentominoes, and I think I even have a tetromino around here. Yep, this is a tetromino. 4 squares connected in the plane one way. One of the tetrominos. There are other ways we could have done it. Now, if I count its flipped version as the same as it, and I wondered how many ways are there to connect 5 cells, well, those are the pentominoes. There's 12 of them if you count the flip copy as the same. And Martin Gardner was one of the people who popularized pentominoes. He didn't invent them, but he brought them to the world. He also, in this book, has chapters ranging from palindromes to Penrose tiles to hypercubes to the art of M.C. Escher to Klein bottles to fractal music to surreal numbers to all sorts of cool stuffs in here. So I highly recommend any collection of Martin Gardner's things. We'll leave this one out in the pile for ones that maybe we'll actually look inside in a minute. First, we're going to just look at more so the outside of these books. Some of them have little stories I need to tell linked to them. That one's story is just any collection you can get from that guy. If you like my videos about fun facts about numbers, I think you'll like that guy. He's one of the kings of fun facts about numbers. Unfortunately, he's passed away, so if I had to pick a modern king of that genre, who I someday hope to have in the combo classroom, I'll say Clifford Pickover. And Clifford Pickover is another Martin Gardnerish fellow who has brought a lot of random topics from other people to the world, and he's also discovered and named a bunch of things of his own mixed in there, and just has fun playing with numbers. He's written other books that don't even relate fully to numbers. This is one I haven't read yet. Strange Brains and Genius, The Secret Lives of Eccentric Scientists and Madmen. If I had to guess, I would guess this cover looks kind of like a little homemade in a way, you know. There's nothing against it. I like it more than a fancy looking cover. But it looks a little like someone used Photoshop who didn't 100% know how to use it on some of the covers. I feel like he might have made the covers himself. If he's watching for some reason, that's not a diss. I think it's awesome if you make your own cover. And I like it more than the polished Hollywood style. Now, where's a book I actually have read from him? Well, these piles are large, but somewhere in here, we have a few... Here we go. Here are 2 that I would recommend from Clifford Pickover. Wonders of Numbers and Keys to Infinity. There are many others he's written about math that are brilliant as well. These are just 2 really nice collections of random puzzles and facts and stuff. Now, somebody said his birthday is coming up. That's cool. Somebody asked about Principia Mathematica. That is a very classic book. we don't have that in this pile, but we do have another very classic book we talked about in the past. Last stream, somebody asked if we're going to talk about Euclid, and I said that, well, in one of the first things I put on YouTube for Combo Class, maybe the third or so video on the Combo Class channel, maybe fourth video on the Combo Class channel, was about my version of a proof Euclid did. Well, it was about 3 different sectors, but one sector of the episode was my version of how Euclid, way long ago, BC, that means more than 2,000 years ago, proved things like the infinitude of the primes. And Euclid is definitely a name we need to throw in the mix when talking about the most innovative or influential mathematicians. I often talk about Euler, whose name looks a little similar if you don't look close enough. They both start with the EU. They both have an L not long after that. But Euler is a better, historically, mathematician, maybe just because we had better record-keeping stuff at that point and better language. Mathematics had developed to the point where they knew how to use numbers better when Euler was around. He had a head start on Euclid. And so Euclid was seeing numbers almost like distances more, almost like if I wondered about the numbers 2 and 3, or let's say the numbers 7 and 8, he would almost see the numbers 7 and 8, not like this versus this, but like this length versus this length. And then, here we would say fractions are like that too. This would be 7/15ths, and this would be 8/15ths of that whole line. They were into stuff like geometric constructions, like you can do with a straight edge and compass, and things along those lines. Well, I mentioned that I do have a version of Euclid's Elements that there are many books of his Elements, or the way I have it, ended up being 3 different paper books. That was how long it took them, although they could have combined it into a big one, to not only put Euclid's Elements, but put some little translations next to them so that it made any sense, so that a modern reader could in any way comprehend it. So let's just see, here are the ones here, the 13 books of the Elements, Volume 1 of how I happen to have them compiled. Now, I have read this in a somewhat skimming way. I have not read this from the start all the way through densely completely. That's on my to-do list to do at some point. I've read maybe half of it over time, but not in order from the start. Now, the way I happen to have it, so the reason I'm saying I haven't read it enough is I don't know if I recommend this version of it or not. I'm neutral on this 3-book republishing of it at the moment, but getting some copy of this and reading it seems interesting. And I thought that, well, it's one of the most classic books. I better make sure that I'm not missing anything in one of the most classic books. And so here, this one's books 1 and 2 with all the translations. This is books 3 through 9 with all the translations, and this is books 10 through 13. Now, here, let's see an example of why they need to translate it. So, here, let's see. Note on postulate 5. Okay. So, this is an example of what we have here. One of Euclid's proofs translated into English before the additional commentary that helps us know how he used language. Just purely translating it. We have here, let AB be the given finite straight line. Thus it is required, and I guess first this might have been part of it, that it says, Proposition 1, on a given finite straight line to construct an equilateral triangle. Let AB be the given finite straight line. Thus it is required to construct an equilateral triangle on the straight line AB. With center A and distance AB, let the circle BCD be described Then there's a postulate 3. Let it be described. They're just saying what he means by that, because he just says that. Let it be described. If you translate the word, they use things differently. Different languages have different shortcuts. And it's useful because if you're in a language, you don't want to say the long technical definition every time. A lot of people, okay, not a lot of people on this one, a few people I've seen comment over time on a video of mine that they're like, well, you left out the fact that you're just talking about the real numbers and that those rules don't count when you're not in the real numbers. Or a slightly more common one is using the word factor often is used in number theory to mean the positive factors or divisors. There are negative factors, technically, you could say, but the word's used ambiguously enough that often in number theory as a shortcut, when you say factors, you mean the positive ones. And a lot of people are like, just the positive factors. And I try and clarify some stuff like that, but if I clarified all of it every episode, it would be so bogged down. It would turn the episodes a million years and boring if I always was like, okay, this is for the real numbers. This is for this rule. We're talking about the commutative property still holding. We're assuming that this is the field we're in. That would get boring pretty quick. So sometimes we have to make little assumptions and skips. And Euclid's assumptions and skips are different than the modern ones. So it requires a lot of commentary that then they're like, okay, this is what he meant by described. This is what he meant by that. Pretty interesting. I want the aliens someday to watch my stuff. And I'm genuinely, it sounds like the silliest thing to stress about, but I genuinely stress sometimes that when I write something for like a draft of one of my books, or for something I want to say in a combo class episode, that the terms are going to change, and the future generations, even if my art goes down in the future, will have a hard time understanding it. And on the flip side, I enjoy some slang. I'm sort of a slang user, almost bite my tongue on some slang that I normally leak out conversationally when I'm making my... When I say it conversationally in real life, I bite my tongue on it sometimes in the videos because I'm not sure which is local slang that won't make as much sense, which of it is older slang that's like only made sense 10 years ago because I'm probably older than some of the viewers. I turned 30 recently. And also some slang is swear words. So, you know, I've bitten my tongue a bit, but we're going to bite our tongue less as the grades go on. So in certain contexts, you can expect me to be tame enough, maybe, probably be tame enough on the Combo Class channel. But this channel's my experiments, so I will never give a guarantee that you're not going to hear me swear or hear me, use sorry, aliens, if I use too much random slang on this channel that you don't understand. They can't see us with the telescope here, but they might still be able to backtrack the time someday. I know it sounds crazy, but don't worry, I am half joking. Now, moving back to our books. So, highly recommend looking at old historical books, like I picked Euclid right there. Now, some of these also analyze old history, like one I don't have here, but that I have books about various old single things in history as well. Now, which of these are the math books before we move on to more fictional things? How about John Conway? That guy's classic. This is one of the denser books, and I would not recommend this as a starting point. The one that I'm going to recommend from him, A, he co-wrote, didn't fully write, but I love the other writer, Richard Guy, who wrote it as well. And B, I've already recommended this one on a lot of streams. Some of these books I've already recommended before, but this one I've recommended many times. It's, fighting for it's in my top 10 favorite books. I can't order books like that because I don't know how to pit the fiction versus the nonfiction. But this has some chance of being my favorite nonfiction book. And it's fighting with others. It's not guaranteed to have that spot. But this book's just so elegant and beautiful looking through number theory. It reminds me of what I try and do with my videos. I read this more recently. I got this one like 2 years ago or something. And fiction books I have been reading my whole life. I'm not sure. Well, yeah, no, I did like reading encyclopedias and stuff. My family has an actual encyclopedia set that I used to like to read. And that's actually going to be a fun stream someday. Looking through the old encyclopedia set for what has changed. What they thought was right to put in the encyclopedia about science or something like that, that's now wrong. For example, I don't know if this is just... Where's that little book? Okay, we looked at the biggest book. Oh, I never said what it was. I got distracted by the other biggest book. The really big one is a dictionary. So this right here, that's something you'd want to be really big because in some ways, all other books are just a scrambled dictionary with copies allowed of the words. Now, this dictionary has all sorts of stuff. I'm sure they've changed, added, subtracted, and stuff. But I haven't actually checked this. I am almost sure it's not going to have threeven. And I'm almost sure it would have even and odd. And all the words that are based on even and odd, like oddly or things like that. Oddity. Well, no, that might be a different word root than odd. I'm not sure. So I'm just looking up threeven, just seeing if for some reason a dictionary this thick has threeven. It is just absurd that a dictionary this thick would put even, but not something like threeven. Threevens are almost as important as evens, folks. I've been continuing to research them because I have a threevens document going for slowly building what I'll probably publish a book about threevens and throds some point. I actually have... It's one of my goals. We almost definitely will at some point have a book mostly dedicated to threevens and throds. Now, I sometimes see a thing that relates to threeven numbers, and I will copy it not just in my combo class document, but in my threeven document. And then when I skim through my threeven document, there are so many cool, crazy things. So feel free to ask me on a future stream. We're not going to do it today because I have a lot to go through. But ask me on a future stream. What's in that threeven document of yours? Now, let's see. Somebody said they have dictionaries with pictures. Doesn't seem like you could fit that many pictures and words. If you put a picture for each of these words, imagine how big this book would be. But that's cool. Any dictionary is good. Now, threeven. Highly doubt they have it. But the point is, threevens, I have been learning over time when you keep an eye out for them, because when I have a document that whenever I see them, it makes me want to paste in the document, it makes me notice them. And they're all over. Threevens are almost as important as evens. Now, and we're going to treat them like more important because evens get a lot of credit in society and math. And so we kind of have to hype up threevens almost as if they're cooler than evens, just to kind of get the public eye on the fact that they're about as cool. Evens get a lot of credit. We're just trying to share the throne with threevens. Now, they have so many words. I keep flipping forward pages and I'm still not there yet. Oh my god, there's so many words. Okay, leave a comment what you think the word before threeven and after threeven will be. What do you think before and after where it would be? What do you think are the closest words to where threeven would fit in? They have a lot. Oh my god. So I can't believe they haven't put something like threeven in here. Look, they have 3-arm protractor, 3-on, 3-ball, 3-ball match, 3-handed armadillo. 3-handed armadillo? 3-base hit, 3 birds, 3-card Monty, 3-card poker. They have definitions for all these. 3-centered arch, 3-cent piece, 3 charge rate, 3 circuit switch, 3-color, 3-color photography, 3-color process, 3-color theory, 3-corner, 3-cornered, 3-cornered constituency, 3-cushion billiards, 3-cushion carom, threed, British variation of thread. They don't have threeven, but they have threed, the British variation of thread. Come on. Then they have stuff about 3D. And Threven would be later because we need the V hooked on. I guess to throw in a fact, just so everybody knows how alphabetization works, if you have a shorter word like 3 versus Threven, having nothing at the end of you makes you come first. Similar to if I had 3 decimal places at the end of a number after a point, and then I had nothing, it implies zeros, and that's smaller than if I had that and then another number. It's kind of similar to, and explains the logic behind why 3 would be before Threven, because it's contained in Threven and shorter. So it's almost like 30000 compared to 3 and some more. Now, Threven, of course, is not in here. The closest are 3-volumer. 3-volumer. It's British for a 3-volume novel. So this is a 3-volumer we had in here. The thing I showed here was the closest thing to Threven in the dictionary. 3-volumer, though? Really? This thing's called a trilogy. They never heard of the word trilogy? 3-volumer. Okay. Now, before that, the one that would be right before it is 3-valued. That makes sense. In fact, it's very mathematical related. It says, possessing 3 truth values instead of the customary 2 of truth and falsehood. And there is 3-valued logic. Now, we'll read this entire dictionary on a stream someday. Probably not, actually. But the other big book I wanted to show was, this is fiction. We'll go back to math in a second. But I do have a 3-volumer that became a 4-volumer and became a 5-volumer because the series continued. Where is that? Where's the... Here. Y'all, whoever doesn't know about this and sees, sometimes people want the number 42 in a comment, and you're like, what are you talking about? I thought I knew my meme numbers. Do you mean 420 with a missing 0? But no, 42 is commonly referenced because it is a key component of this book series, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Great series. Highly recommend. Very mathematical, very funny. Douglas Adams here wrote one of the purest combos I've ever seen for whole book-length pieces of something both funny but philosophical. And it's very mathematical as well. And it contains the number 42 as a key point. Now, 42 might show up in the next episode, weirdly, because one of the shots I got was... So Fermat's Last Theorem is the next episode, and Fermat studied gambling-like things. He studied probability, so I was getting some B-roll for while I'm telling a story in that episode of some dice rolling, and of this weird bingo thing that I got. And so I generated some random numbers with the bingo thing, and the only one that showed face up when it fell said 42. So maybe I'll put that footage and keep it in the next episode. Now, back to... let's comb out the math ones to talk about those so that we can get on to fiction ones and sort of separate that a little bit. As far as other math ones, some of these in the back are not to talk about. Some of these are... These 2 piles are decorative in that they mostly contain copy authors of authors I will recommend in these piles. I can't talk about every book when a lot of the authors overlap and when I can't do the stream forever. So what we're going to do is, I think it's these. Okay, that's a lot of piles. Yeah, there's a lot of piles we were going to mention. In any case, the next largest book is another one that sort of makes sense to be that, which is a thesaurus. Another good resource, especially if you're a writer. I like writing, and often you will be like, okay, my character is really... some word that you've already used before is really frustrated. Oh, but I said someone was frustrated a few paragraphs ago. Do I have a different word for a deeper version of the corner of the emotion I want to get? And you get a bunch. You know, if I looked up frustrated, for example, in here, you'd get... okay, they don't have frustrated. They have frustrate or frustration. But for frustration, they have, like, a variety of words that are similar. Defeat, circumvention, discouragement, obstruction. Those are really helpful. I love a thesaurus because sometimes, there's a lot of words out there. Sometimes you forget the more elegant ones that would help out your sentence. Sometimes you're like, my sentence sounds a little like a 5th grader made this. How can I pump this up, make it a little more flowery or a little more clear, or a little more beefy? And this thesaurus can be your friend. Now, you can also look that up online. A thesaurus is cool to have. It's even interesting to read through. But if you need to do that online, what I often do is Google something simile. Synonym. Something synonym. And the synonym or antonym. Sometimes I do that as well. Sometimes I'm curious about what they think the opposite of something is. But that's a topic for a whole nother episode someday. What does it mean to be the opposite of something? That's a very philosophical episode that will also relate to negative numbers and inverses and fractional inverses and things like that. So, putting this one we looked at aside, and there's another Clifford Pickover and some more random ones. This might have been one of the piles I wasn't going to talk about as much. Now, there's some really old math books. These ones I haven't read yet. I got them. I inherited them recently. There's a really old Fundamentals of Mathematics, an old Modern School Mathematics, and oh boy, you're in for a treat when you got a book that looks like it's from the dinosaur age called Modern something. Not that it's going to be wrong about much, Let's see when it was written. It was 1967. Most of the things they would put in this book will still be applicable and correct. But I wonder, is there anything in this book that's wrong because it's changed? Because we've learned more information about the subject? Or because we've perhaps... I'm sure that certain terminology has gone out of popularity and that some of the ways they write things or terms they use are less popular now. But I wonder if there's anything you could say they're wrong about in one of these books because we've learned more about that field of math. For example, one of the things about learning more about something that I'm not sure the full story on this little one. Where's the smallest book here? I was looking for this earlier. This is what I get for making so many piles. Here. This book I have in like a little guide of different books is called Non-Flowering Plants. And on the front, and in most of the book, they show mushrooms. And mushrooms are not plants. Plants are a different kingdom. There's plants, animals, and mushrooms are in neither of those kingdoms. They're within the fungi kingdom. And did they just not know when they made this book that that should deserve a different distinction? Were mushrooms considered plants when they made this book? Or did they just really get it different than usual? Now, we'll look through that sometime. See, this one was written in... when was this written? You gotta look for the little copyright thing. They almost always have it. 1967. Was that other one also 1967? That's weird. Or something really close to that. When was that? What? Whoa! That's a really weird coincidence. I looked at two books' copyrights randomly. Completely unrelated books. The math book I inherited, and this thing my family had about plants, but actually about mushrooms. They both happened to be published in 1967. That's funny. Okay. So, moving forward. Now, I'm not going to be able to get to every book I want to talk about. Let's see a few more recommendations. Now, this one I've made before, but I have to just say again that Raymond Smullyan, who's a friend of Martin Gardner I recommended earlier, wrote a lot of great books. This one's one of the great ones. This one changed my life. We'll talk more about that later, and we already did talk about it a bit. Now I'm going to show a different one from him, which is this. This one also was very important in my mathematical development, like 15 years ago or 10 years ago. This one takes a lot of puzzles that seem like little fantasy story puzzles and then brings them up to the math behind them. And this one is a little less fantastical. It does have those fantasy stories, but it much quicker breaks the fourth wall into saying, this is the math that's going on. And it's very interesting at making these puzzles that secretly, when you describe them, it's like, okay, you're on an island, and there's this weird rule on the island, and people do this on the island. Figure out this thing about this sentence. But you can write it in terms of logical language. Like, this is how often you will write certain, not 3-valued logic, this is the 2-valued logic that one was referencing. Now, so, looking at some more here, a lot of the ones I have left here that I brought for today, one or two more that are interesting. Here's a number theory history book. I don't remember as much about this one. Here's another one, but I want to just note that if there's a topic you're interested in, like I was interested in number theory when I got these, and I still am, you can just look up like cool books on that and pick whichever ones used you can get. And there's a lot of interesting random books that have number theory in the title that I got a few years ago. This one doesn't have that in the title, but this one I would actually, it's close, in the theory of numbers. This is the one I'd maybe recommend the most. This one is very great. It's a little dense. Okay, I need to make a new pile here of books on the floor or something. I was making a really big stack up here, and I don't want them to fall on the computer when they stack too high. Now, here we have that Recreations in the Theory of Numbers that is pretty playful and fun with it as well. But then it also has some pretty dense parts. There's some really cool diagrams stuffed in, and once in a while you'll hit a table like that. So, good mix of little digestible bits and then pretty quickly going to the dense bits. This one wouldn't be as welcoming to a beginner as some of those other ones I mentioned. Now, that's most of the math ones I happen to bring out here. I'm sure there's more mixed in, but I also wanted to mention some random fiction things I've enjoyed. We've read Goosebumps Choose Your Own Adventures before, and I still think that Choose Your Own Adventures are an underrated format, and that there should be more Choose Your Own Adventure math books, almost like you were on Wikipedia or something where there's hyperlinks, but a self-enclosed part of it that meant to tell a story or teach a lesson. And I think that the Choose Your Own Adventure format often is assumed to mean you pick what happens in the story. But there could be a story laid out in various documents that you choose which order you see them. And some of the things that I write will be published in that format, where there will be different documents describing different scenes, and it'll be a Choose Your Own Adventure like web connecting them. And maybe even some of my math books will be like that, where say you read a chapter about factorials, and then at the end it tells you, well, here's where you go for your triangular numbers chapter if you want that. Here's where you go for your falling factorials sequel chapter. Here's where you go if you want to know another place where factorials show up in the midst of another topic, and things like that. Now, other things that I've enjoyed, there's some book series I loved as a kid. I was obsessed with certain book series. Like, one of the ones I loved a lot that I have here is, I don't know if any of you ever read this Series of Unfortunate Events. This was a really mysterious series that was pretty funny in a like dark humor way, but also really dark. So it was kind of edgy for kids in like a certain way, in a smart way. And those had really cool mysteries, and I loved those. And I would go to like the bookstore like the day those would come out to try and get one. And I would do that with some other series as well. There's a lot of cool books here. I'll talk more in depth about those ones later. One that I do have here that I do need to make sure I don't forget about. Oh, here's another one. Some of the math ones, like I said, are mixed in, and we'll come back. Here are some more I recommend. That this one is actually, both of these are by other YouTubers. So this one is by Matt Parker, who has the channel Stand Up Maths. Good writer as well. Love the guy. Now, I would love to work with that guy someday. He has a similar sense of humor to me in some of this stuff. Now, with that, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this one as much to, if I could only recommend one. Good book. More of almost history of certain mathematical things. If you want one that teaches you mathematical things more, although this does too, I would look at his other book too, which is called Things to Make and Do in the Fourth Dimension. And another one that is another YouTuber I love is this guy called Mathologer, but the guy's name is Burkhard Polster. And he wrote a few books that I have, and this one is the thinnest and smallest, a very tiny book, but it has a lot of elegant little proofs in it. So each page is its own little elegant proof of something. Not necessarily proofs he invented, although he has made up some stuff within his videos. Some classics, but cool stuff. So, good little visualizations. Now, the other one that I have to make sure I don't forget. Well, I guess I have one more math one that I have to make sure I don't forget because it's the funny one. But I'll also note that as far as fiction goes, one of my favorite authors throughout life has been Kurt Vonnegut. So to anyone who likes reading fiction, I would recommend reading some books like Cat's Cradle, Slaughterhouse-Five, Breakfast of Champions, and a lot of other ones by Kurt Vonnegut. He has been, if I had to pick one fiction writer who is my favorite, I'd pick him. It's hard to compare the fiction and the math always. And there's a lot of other cool authors in this stack, but the one I want to make sure I don't forget is one of the reasons I wanted to make sure I made this stream, because I thought this was so funny I wanted to share it. And I need some help figuring it out. So, I showed a while ago that I got this number dictionary. This number dictionary I expected to be like my other dictionary. It was one of the used books I bought on Amazon. And not to support them. I shouldn't even say their name. Puts it too much in people's heads. So, boo Amazon. Treat your workers better. But this was a used book that I got through some seller that was through there. And I expected that when you have a number dictionary, you would have definitions of the numbers. Now, that's kind of hard to do. It's like, what does a definition mean? You want the factors, you want what? But maybe some fun facts. Maybe like you only list the words that are commonly used. Maybe you list the numbers that are seen as important often and say why they're seen as important. Which the other number dictionary does. The one called like Penguin Books of something, interesting book of something number dictionary. That one that got destroyed in the rain. Let me see what it's actually called. That one's actually good. That one I like. David Wells, The Penguin Dictionary of Curious and Interesting Numbers. So that one if you want a number dictionary, that one does the trick. A lot of fun facts. I mean, it doesn't have all the facts. It could be improved for sure, but has a lot of fun facts about numbers. But here, when I open this one, expecting a different author's take on that concept, you just get the numbers. Now, I already showed that we just get the numbers, which is pretty ridiculous. But at the end of that, I noted that it says, Volume 1 comprises natural numbers from 1 to 49,149. Next volumes will be published soon. And it's written in a sort of cheeky way back here, the ideal gift, discover your favorite number, that I was assuming that was a joke, because like everything else on the back here sort of has a jokey tone. It's the unique opportunity to start your collection of numbers today. So, like, obviously the guy knows that it's sort of a silly, almost like an Andy Warhol painting, a really minimal thing. He knows it's a silly maneuver, almost more of like a performance art than a book. So I assumed that this was part of the joke. That volume 1, comprising natural numbers from 1 to 49,149, next volumes will be published soon, was a joke. Well, I mean, it's true that it goes to 49,149 exactly, it's pretty weird. It's like, they go to 49,149, and then they write the to be continued in the same line, so it's sort of a random spot they cut off, and they start at a random spot. I want to compare it to Mod 8, because there are 8 columns. But it's going to be difficult because the first column are the numbers that are congruent to 2 mod 8. They don't put 0 and they put 1 over there for some reason. And then, so it's a really arbitrary choice of 49,149. It's like that's how many fit with the graphic designer and with their weird 1 placement. And he said, let's roll with that. Let's turn that into part of the gag. That we're going to publish more volumes after that. And I was considering working this into some sort of episode, like comparing it and the other number dictionary and really using it as an opportunity to talk about Mod 8 and finding, for example, although it's a little askew and the first column are the numbers that are congruent to 2 mod 8, then 3 mod 8, there's still patterns, like if we looked for the square numbers and highlighted them all, they would only live in certain columns, the quadratic residues mod 8. And so I wanted to find some more patterns, both from the past and ones I haven't shared, converted into where they live in this strange book, because I'm going to get my money worth out of this thing if it's the end of me. But I figured before I put this in an episode, I need to restart my beats. That was like what I had on this phone. I've made a lot more music than that, but I put my beats on in the background, and we're going to restart what I had on the phone. Now, I figured before I put this into any episodes, better double check that that was a joke, right? It's not a joke. I looked up Volume 2, and they actually sell Volume 2. And then, here's the thing. They don't stop at Volume 2. This guy must have been like, the gag's working. People are still buying this absurdist product after number 2. Because it looks like they've made 4 of them. This guy's getting away with selling 4 books that are just numbers. And it's such a deadpan maneuver that it's almost like a strange performance art, and I'm not really mad at him. He can get his hustle. He can sell a bunch of books of numbers, and it's so ridiculous that I'm probably going to have to be one of the people, one of the only people on Earth probably, who owns all 4. I have to buy 3 more dictionaries of numbers, because if I'm going to make an episode about comparing number dictionaries, I need to actually know what's in those. Do they start their first number askew? Are they mod 8 also? Are they really just 4 books of numbers? So, we'll be investigating that. I'm gonna have to order them. I don't have it set up to go to the max screen capture. So, you'll just have to see them when I have to order them at some point. It's not right away. I have a bunch of other episodes planned first, but 4 books of that. 4 volumes. Let me see if that's correct. Number dictionary volume. I remember searching it. It was like volume 2, and I'm like, it exists? What? Okay, there can't be volume 3. Okay, 3 exists? Okay, there can't be volume 4. 4 exists? And then I was like, okay, no, there really can't be volume 5, and I don't think there is. I think it goes to 4 of them. So, we probably, like, volume 4 says numbers from 142,437 to 186,560. So, we're going to have a lot of numbers, folks. I got to buy them for the gag and for making an episode about number dictionaries. So, this will return at some point then. Now, that's a lot of the books that were most important for me to talk about. I brought out a ton here because I wasn't sure which ones would bring me on what tangents to others. But some of them are overlap authors. Some of them are ones that we'll talk about later, other days. I do think I'm going to check our chat, see if there's any questions or whatever to reply to, and wrap up our stream before too long. We have gone through most of what I wanted to share here. It was our little random book club, but we will do revenges of the book club, where once in a while I will show you other ones that weren't shown in the stack, and other ones I have all throughout my house, and even in a plastic box in the combo classroom, and in the other parts of the room, and etc. So, a lot of other ones. What we might wrap up with is seeing if an optical illusion or two translates through the camera. We got a book of optical illusions, too. I didn't bring my magic eye one, did I? Those are so fun. The stereograms or stereoptical something. The magic eyes, where you get to look through the image and see something 3D. And I actually think they do translate through the computer, because I held one up on a stream once, and I think it worked for people. But here, let's just find one, or this isn't that. There's a different book of optical illusions, because I realized that having one of those magic eye books out at a party, or if you're hanging out with friends, is a great side thing for people to do if they're bored, to flip around, to show each other and stuff. Really great how, like, if you have a party or something, you need random old things, you might need some snacks, maybe. Sometimes I put out art supplies or random stuff. Fun to have little activities for people. Having a book of magic eyes can be extra useful. And I decided when I do that to start leaving out a book of general optical illusions too. Because not everyone can do the magic eye. Not everyone's eye can blur in the right way. So here we got some classics. Let's see the most classics. Oh, they got all kinds of them in here. Like, these lines will appear to move when I move this up and down. Here, this says this. If I move this in a circular fashion, these will spin. I'm not sure what they mean exactly. We'll find a easier to do one through the screen. If you stare at this one, it'll appear to shimmer. Let's see. I don't know. Let me know if they're working or not. This one's warp. This is one of the ones where move your head slowly towards and away from this, and it might appear to spin. Wait, I got to get it straight on. So maybe they don't all work in front of the camera. It's also, like I said, very hard to be running the computer and being the one doing all the props and the talking and stuff. We will be having some more help on the live streams at random points. And we're also going to feature some of my friends, like I said, in addition to a bird knowledgeable friend who's actually coming over tomorrow, and I might film some fun stuff with. Probably not for a live stream, maybe for a bonus video. And some other friends I've mentioned. My really, really good friend, who I've made a lot of music with throughout life, is moving back from relatively far. He was living for a while. And will be back in the area very close to me. And I'm definitely going to have him on some streams to do musical stuff, because he's very knowledgeable about music. And he knows me very well. We'll be able to... he'll fit into the combo classroom. And there will be other fun things coming up. Like I said, tomorrow I'm going to get that Fermat's last theorem finished. I'm sorry it took a little longer. This one took... Some of them have a bunch of scenes that I'm not the fastest editor in the world. I do it a pretty... there's probably ways to speed up all of the stuff I do on editing if you were actually more of a professional on digital stuff than me. I'm old-fashioned. I like my old books and stuff. But that'll be coming at some point quite soon, and then I'll be trying to get out an episode on the main Combo Class channel about once a week, but sometimes might take 1.5 weeks while I'm doing all to most of the editing myself. But over time, we'll get that more and more frequent. On this channel, I also... It's overdue for me to post some more shorts. I actually have already filmed one or two, and those will be coming before long also. So, love you all who catch the live streams and random extra bonus content here. Remember that the Combo Class channel is my main one, despite having less subscribers. And I will do my mentions here. Maybe boring. We're going to an outro-ish bit, but we do have a Discord where there's a lot of cool chatting. There's also a subreddit, and there's also a Patreon for anybody who has the budget to help us continue and grow our operation. So, in any case, thanks to all of you for watching. Leave some comment after the video processes if you want to help in the algorithm too. And make sure to read some stuff. Even if you don't have a good paper book, you can look at an ebook somewhere. A lot of good places to get old enough books. You can get the free ebook legally because it's public domain. I'm sure you could find the text of Elements. Nobody can own that and tell you not to give it away for free online, so someone's giving it away for free online. But in any case, read some stuff, even if it's just Wikipedia, which is an underrated, although imperfect, encyclopedia. And I'll make some more recommendations about online reading in a different video. But that's all for today. Gotta go put a few books back on a bookshelf, find some cats to pet, and some other fun things. I will catch you all in the next one.